Recording in progress.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
We are going to call the Rules and Appointments Committee to order for our June 7th, 2022 meeting. We're going to call it to order at this time. Please call the roll. Ms. Carilla.
Malinowski.
Here.
Barron.
Here.
Mackey.
And I understand that Ms. Mackey is on her way to join us. She's in the building, so she'll be sliding in just a little bit. Our next order of business is approval of our minutes from May the 17th. Those items are found on pages 6 through 13. Yes, sir, Mr. Malinowski.
Madam Chair, before I make a motion for approval, I would like to go to page 6. No, not 6. Hold on. Yeah, page 6 and page 7. Now, maybe I'm not remembering correctly, but was the last meeting the one that based on whether you had a difficult time getting in here?
No, sir.
That wasn't it?
No,
Okay.
sir, it was the
one
time
before that?
Yes.
Okay, but then as you go down further, while members present, it has Ms. Mackey present, but then when we got to voting for number 2, number 3, and the interviews, it does not show Ms. Mackey. Was she not here maybe?
She was virtually, and then she came in a little bit later, last meeting.
Oh, you were virtually here? Well, I just wanted to make sure that we had, because then later on her name appears. I just want to make sure we had it correct, that's all. Maybe we could check on that to be sure we have it correct. And with that comment, I'll make a motion for approval of the minutes.
I'll second it. If there isn't any further discussion, Ms. Carilla, if you'll call the vote for the approval of the minutes.
Malinowski.
Yes.
Barron.
Yes.
Mackey.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Madam Chair, if I may. Sorry, I just sat down, so it took me a little while to jog my memory. So I was not virtual. I was late, though, to that meeting. That was the day with the bad thunderstorm and everything else. And so I did.
You're the one that had the thunderstorm problem. I knew it was somebody. Okay.
Yeah, that was
Thank you.
One, too, but we just, different weeks.
And Mr. Malinowski, I think that she chose not to vote because she had come in late and it wasn't here for all the interviews. So
Okay, that's fine. Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you all.
Thank you. So our next order of business is the adoption of our agenda. I did hear from our clerk that our interview, Mr. John Loveday, has withdrew his application. And so we will not be interviewing him today. Madam Clerk, are there any other items or any changes that we need to make to our agenda for today?
No other changes.
Thank you. So with that, I'll entertain a motion to accept the agenda as amended. Ms. Carrillo, we have a second by Ms. Mackey.
Malinowski.
Yes.
Barron.
Yes.
Mackey.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Thank you. So I just remembered something, that we do have IT here to discuss our reporting mechanisms. And I'm not certain if we need to go back and move that item up to be for a vote or not. Mr. Wright, do we need to make any changes to our agenda to hear them first before going into executive session?
no, you can just do it in a different order.
Thank you. So with that, we're going to skip down to item, I think it's under, please help me, Madam Clerk.
Item 5A.
Item 5A. So this is our attendance report that we've been requesting to find some uniformity to how the boards and commissions report back to us. And we do have someone here from IT. And so we'll, Mr. Welch, you want to?
Wilson's here with that division. He's going to speak.
Please, sir.
Hey, good afternoon. Tim Nielsen, Richland County IT.
Hold on one second. Let's adjust your volume just a little bit.
Louder? Louder? Okay.
I don't want you to be.
I'm fine.
Can you give him a little volume, Justin? Thank you.
And you're yelling at the kids.
I have a 6'3" son who says it's quite awkward kneeling down to do things. So I get it. Oh, unlike me.
Thank you, Justin.
Don't mess with me. Okay, so thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
If you just state your name for the record and your department, and then please go forward with your presentation.
Sure. My name is Tim Nielsen, Richland County IT. So we were asked by the clerk's office to consult and develop a mechanism for formalizing, standardizing the collection of attendance data for boards and commission meetings and other bodies. We have kind of presented to the clerk's office a version 1 of that effort. And what you're looking at on the screen here is a screenshot of what is essentially a web form that can be accessed by the whoever is chairing the commission, board, or body. And they can enter the date of the meeting, the location of the meeting, the name of the board, and enter in the attendance status of each member. So you can see in the example that's presented here, there's the list of attendees that is the makeup of the board at any given time. So we know based on our other software that we've developed, who has been approved to be on the board when their term starts and ends. And so we can generate a list of members that should be in attendance. And then the chair of the board can note whether they were in attendance and if there's any note necessary to describe why they were not, if we happen to know that information. Then this information can be submitted and saved into the database for later reporting or any other purposes that the clerk needs.
Any questions? I've got a couple. Jackie, go ahead.
Oh, thank you. So I guess in addition to talking about a standardized way for attendance tracking, we also kind of talked about how to set this up so that we can get quarterly reports. So is there a way that this system kind of can alert people, or does that make sense? To you fill in Q1, this is it, and then it.
Yes, ma'am. There's reporting capabilities in this software, and often we kind of present them as dashboards so that the clerk could be aware, of the situation and status, as necessary during the quarter. But then we could generate a quarterly report that shows, who is absent, how much percentage, all those kind of statistical analyses.
And then what is the archive like? Since some of our, well, I guess once we pass the rules, all of our boards and committees will have a term limit tied to them. And so is there something in here that, we track an individual and in 3 or 4 years, the term ends, but does it keep track in the back end? Meaning, could you go and pull a report that says, okay, over the past 5 years, how many folks have served on the Planning Commission, even if they're not serving now?
Yes, ma'am. As a general rule, we do not delete any data from the database unless there's a specific records request that's consistent with the county records retention policy.
Thank you.
I do have a couple of questions then. So with the notes, I would like to see maybe change that from notes to reason. And then if we could also make that a required box so they can't skip past it. Because one of the things that we found that we're not getting reasons why people are missing these meetings. So if we have that as a required box, then they won't skip past it. And then, is this a web-based software or where they would just go to a particular website to log on?
Yes, ma'am, that's correct.
Okay, great. I was just hoping that you weren't going to say something like it's Access or it looks like Access, and it started to make me nervous.
If it was, I couldn't admit it in front of Dale.
Okay, and then one last question, really not a deal breaker, but it could help with continuity from one system to the next, and that is our online application. Does the online application somewhat, talk to this system?
Yes, ma'am, they're the same software. It's called OnBase, and it's an electronic records management system.
So that's perfect. So essentially, once we appoint someone and you go and the clerk's office go back and put them in as a board member, I guess, then they automatically transfer over.
Yes, ma'am.
Beautiful. I have no more questions. I think we're well on our way. Ms. Mackey?
Thank you. Just to kind of hit on the point you just made at the overall process, and maybe this is being worked out, I'm not sure, but is the intent once the council approves a certain person to be appointed, then it would be the clerk's office responsibility to input it, or would it be that staff's person's responsibility to input that new name in the system?
What I think, ma'am, what happens is that the applicant initiates the process by providing the application, and that data flows through status updates and updates to the record to the point where when they are actually approved for the position, what the clerk's doing is putting in the term dates and updating the status to approved.
And so the clerk's office would basically be more so the record keeper of if someone was appointed, if they rolled off or not. And then the staff person that is assigned to the board or committee would be responsible just for updating attendance. Is that okay?
Yes, ma'am.
And then is there, this is my last question, I'm probably going in the weeds, but is there consideration for staff turnover? So if someone leaves and they're no longer assigned to that board commission, is there then a process at which someone else can have access? Meaning, is there like a single entry point, or can multiple people have access to this?
I mean, there's no issue from a technical standpoint with multiple people having access. That would be kind of a business process decision.
Okay.
Further questions? All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Nelson, for your presentation, and to the clerk's office for getting all this together for us. And so I think that it would probably be, because this needs to go before full council so that we can start to utilize it. So I'd like to entertain a motion to accept the system. Hey, would I go ahead and make your...
Okay, all right, motion to approve. And what is it? Does the system have a name?
This is the, I'm a little bit caught prepared for that question. We can call it the OnBase attendance application.
Okay, motion to approve the recommended on-base attendance application system.
Any further questions or discussions?
Yes, Madam Chair. I would request that in addition to sending this to council, that we also provide a proposed schedule. So we talked about setting quarterly dates in which boards must report so that we're not waiting to the end of the year to hear back. So I would like to have that schedule presented along with this.
I think that would be helpful to, so as a part of this motion in this package that's going before council, we will have dates that says when the reports are due to us. And because we are coming up on, it doesn't seem like it, but we're in the third quarter. We're in the third quarter of the year. It would probably be helpful to go ahead and, forecast for 2023. So that people aren't caught off guard and they already know what our expectation is coming into this. And yeah, I guess it would be, and maybe this is an educator in me, that we assume that everyone will know how to use this system and they will not need any type of technical assistance, but if they do, they will reach out to the clerk's office.
Correct.
Okay. So that was our motion and our second. Any further discussion? If not, Madam Clerk.
Malinowski,
Yes.
Barron,
Yes.
Mackey.
Yes.
Motion approved.
And I just want to say thank you to the IT department again for helping us come up a little bit higher in the level of excellence, and definitely to the clerk's office, because I do think that this is going to help us be more efficient and effective and provide a uniform front, if you'll allow me to say, for all of our boards and commissions. So thank you so much. So we're going to move back to our agenda and we're going to go to item 4, which is our interviews. Yes, we will.
Motion to go in executive session to conduct interviews.
Second.
Malinowski,
Yes.
Barron,
Yes.
Mackey.
Yes.
Motion approved.
I'll entertain a motion to come out of executive session.
Second.
We are coming out of executive session, executive session where we conducted interviews for applicants to sit on the Lexington Richland Alcohol and Drug Abuse Council, known as LRADAC. We did not take any action during that time. So our next item for discussion, we've already taken care of item 5A. Our next item for discussion and / action is.
Madam Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
can we have a motion to come out of executive session?
Oh, we didn't have that. Thank you.
So
Thank
We
you.
did. Bill motioned, I second. We didn't
We
vote.
didn't take a
Didn't
vote.
take the vote.
Yeah,
That's what
but-
we didn't do. Let's vote.
Malinowski,
Yes.
Barron,
Yes.
Mackey.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Overly zealous, just ready to roll. So we are moving to item 5B, which is existing county council ad hoc committee lists there. There we see where we have the inactive ones as well as the active ones. Tonight, we will make a motion to full council. We tried this, I think, the last meeting, and we did have some conversation about the Economic Development Commission, and it looks like I don't see that one on this list anymore.
Yeah.
Because
They say there is not active.
it's not active. So it probably still should have been on this list as inactive, correct?
Oh, I'm sorry. You are, we have two different lists. The ones that we have for the council is still for council discussion. The one that you have in front of you is the ad hoc committees that
Thank
are
you.
not active.
Thank you, thank you. So we have the ad hoc committees that we're looking at. I'm mixing the two lists up. Thank you so much for helping me clarify that. So with that, and I think this probably will spill over into item C as well, and that was the sewer committee. Even though the sewer committee is active, there was some concern that those items can be taken up in A&F. So with that, we can have some discussion about how we would like to move forward with several of these inactive ad hoc committees. So I'll just open up the floor for discussion as how we want to move forward with those. Mr. Malinowski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm referring to page 34 where we have the ad hoc committees listed. That blue ribbon committee, that was when we had the 100-year flood that took place. And it is inactive, and I don't see the need for even, I don't know, do we need to keep the name anyplace on a list? If something happens, I'm sure we'll enact another one. I was going to move down then to the Dirt Road Committee where it says last met 2018. All the dirt roads were tossed over into the penny tax program and are being handled through that. So I don't think we need that committee listed any longer. Those Pinewood Lake. Seems to me that Pinewood Lake could come under one of our other committees, DNS or A&F, whichever it's decided to do. And I'm thinking DNS because we're talking about development and services out there. So I would think anything to do with that could go to that committee and eliminate that one. And the same with sewer, that would be related to development and services. I would think anything else coming up from them could go there for recommendations to the full council. Transportation. I guess we could still keep that one because there's quite a bit that gets discussed with a penny tax at that one. That would maybe, that I think would warrant having its own group so as not to burden down another committee. These other ones I mentioned, though, don't seem like there's a lot of what I would call heavy lifting in them. The up above where you've got the council office overview, inactive has not met. I'd say anything that's inactive hasn't met or last met anywhere from 2 to 4 years ago. I think we should eliminate all those.
That council office overview, that was something, correct me if I'm wrong, Ms. Only, that was something that Mr. Livingston put into play when last year when under his tenure, and I don't think it just didn't take wings yet. And I think that because of that, what I'd like to hear from the clerk's office, because it was specifically to address needs in your office. Is this something that you anticipate or would like for council to take up? Because that was really why it was put into play. Yes, ma'am.
Madam Chair, I want to say for the council office overview and the intern, those were both recently brought up again. And I think you're right. It happened towards the end of Mr. Livingston's tenure. And there are council members assigned to those committees. Folks did sign up. They have just not called a meeting yet. So I would, those are ones I would be cautious about getting rid of because they were just established, and I think they have not had a chance to meet.
Okay, so I definitely agree with you on that. And then I'm looking at the famously hot New Year. It is brought. Our new mayor has made the decision to not continue with this event. So because he's not continuing with this event, then that's definitely something that we can remove. You see something else, sir?
Well, no, on that same one you're talking about, Ms. Barron, and the famously hot New Year, if anything comes to us from that, it's normally a request for funding. It could go to A&F. It's not a lot of detail and work that we do. So it could go there and they could make a recommendation to the full council, or it could be sent to the budget committee also.
Well, I sat on that committee last year, and I did a lot of work. Yeah, we had meetings. It was a lot of virtual meetings initially. And then, yeah, and I ended up being a spokesperson or something. So it was.
Yes, I'm wondering why you did that much work if the city's running it.
Because we were we were a part of.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we were a part of a bigger committee.
I never got that.
Yeah, so I guess I was the go-to to make sure that the money got
Right.
to
Like
you
you
and
said,
A&F.
If it's been canceled, we can
Yeah.
reenact it when it comes back then.
So given that, the discussion that we've had, I would entertain a motion for us to be able to move this to full council as well.
I need clarification on what we're moving, this entire list, or we're taking off some of what?
Right, so keeping in mind the discussion that we just had. So the discussion that we just had would be, I will review. The Blue Ribbon Committee, we are saying that we're gonna take that one off. The Civil Rights Museum will come off. The Dirt Roads will come off. Famously Hot New Year will come off. Office of Small Business Opportunity will come off. The Ordinance Review will come off.
So we put the land development code in there.
And then I don't know about this privatization. So, because it has not met, I'm thinking it might be falling in that same category with interns and council overview.
Something there.
Sure.
Privatization came up years ago. What is it, 2017?
It never met.
And the reason for it, well, because we're waiting for the chair, whoever it was, year after year, to provide information as to what maybe we should look into, as well as information from staff, because it was felt that there were opportunities for the government to work with private companies to reduce costs in certain areas. And nothing ever was presented for that committee to meet over all those years.
So I would agree. I would say that would also be one to come off. We will leave the Richland's Renaissance Committee as is, because we're having not open conversations, but I think that there's definitely a need there. And then the last three items will with the sewer. We are saying that we're going to take the sewer off and and move that to A&F. I think I skipped also Pinewood Lake. We would move to DNS. Though anything that comes up from there would go to DNS. So
Chair.
those are the, as we have discussed, would be the recommendation.
Madam Chair. Okay, thank you for clarifying all those. That helped me with all my notes. The only one that I would, Office of Small Business Opportunity. That's the only one that I would suggest keep open, simply because within the past few months or so, there's been a lot of discussion about small business. We are currently have an equity study out that we're getting RFPs on to really start looking at our small business office, how we do grants, and getting a better idea of streamlining that system. And I think this committee would be helpful in that process. It's been a topic that many council members have talked about and is a part of actually an initiative inside of our strategic plan that will come before a full council.
Okay, so with keeping this group, you feel, and you know, as a business owner, anytime we're talking about business in Richland County, I'm happy about it. But do you think that the office of small business opportunities would not be able to address those items, or it would be better served in a committee?
I think it's better served in the committee simply because of the conversations that are taking place now, where we are looking at the staff side of things and the possibility of restructuring our grants department and operations of such. And like I said, the equity study that is out and how that's impacting our small business participation, as well as we've had conversations related to our procurement efforts and updating those, and then going back to a strategic plan and this being an initiative. So it's really more so looking at the office, the process, how we're engaging small business, and then really streamline and coming up with a better process. I think once we kind of get that together, then yes, you get rid of it and go back to A&F. But I think there's a lot more work that needs to happen in the ad hoc that I don't think can happen in A&F.
Okay, so thank you for that. Mr. Malinowski?
In this intern position down here, or committee, my recollection is that's something that goes back also several years when we only had 2 employees in the council clerk's office, and some people felt they needed a professional to pretty much do their work for them. And that's how that one came about. Of course, you see what happened. They never met. I would think that that would be something that in the council office overview, if it's felt there's a need for that, it could be put into that, because that's where I thought that position would go. So I would just combine it. I'd recommend that it gets combined with the council office overview for any discussion, and during the time of discussion, it may be decided that's not needed and it can be gone.
Yeah, well, let's just leave it. I think it's probably safe to leave it because there is active conversation. And I would hate for us to create more work, even though it's just, you know, it's a matter of just reinstating it. That's my thoughts. That's my.
I don't know how there's active conversation when it says inactive has not met.
Okay, well, it hasn't met. So I hate to, Mr. Chair, Mr. Walker, I know you're just walked in and all, but can we pull you in this conversation just briefly? Thank you so much.
Yes, Madam Chair.
So the discussion we're having is looking at revising our ad hoc committees. And so with our ad hoc committees, one of the discussions is the intern ad hoc committee. And Ms. Mackey has shared that there is some conversation about re-engaging that committee. We don't want to do away with one, that it is a part of your vision to move forward with implementing this ad hoc committee. So can you just give us a little where you stand on it? Because it would be your decision at this point, because I think Mr. Livingston brought it up at the end of his tenure. And that's kind of how we got back here.
So this is an intern ad hoc committee.
Correct.
And how long has it been in existence?
We don't have an existing date. What we do have is that it is never met before.
I guess the question I would have is why hasn't it met previously? And whether or not we, I guess, view this committee as being, I guess, a part of, I guess, the county's, I guess, the future vision that we have for the county. I mean, it has to serve a purpose. And if it's ad hoc, well, it serves the purpose of intern. I guess, what type of interns are we talking about? Folk who just intern for county council, they intern for the county in general? Is that what, I guess that would be my question, like what purpose is it serving with respect to an internship?
Okay. Thank you. I just wanted to know what you had to offer. So,
I don't have any opinions on it. I hadn't thought about it. And frankly, I didn't realize we actually had this committee. But I mean, if you all feel like it serves a purpose or a purpose that is going to, that's part of council's larger vision, then I don't think it'd be prudent to get rid of it or eliminate it. But if we think that it's going to, I guess it's going to be conducive to whatever vision that council has going forward, then in my mind, it would make sense to keep it, but just make sure that we move it from being dormant to active.
okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Ms. Mackey.
Yes, thank you. So I think there is, going back to Mr. Livingston's intention when this was made, there is a good bit of history with the intern program. And it was one of those initiatives that was started back when Councilmember Chip Jackson was on council as a way to offer opportunities for youth in our community to be more involved with government. Mr. Livingston did bring that back up at the end of his tenure last year as chair. I'm aware that it hasn't met, but I don't feel like right now is the time to take it off. I do think there are several new council members on council. And even though things may not have met a while ago, there are many, many different new people now on council that have the desire to meet and to work on these committees and get things done. I think the intern committee is one that does go back to some of those initiatives discussed in strategic plan about really engaging our constituents, getting them more involved in government and providing opportunities for those here locally. So there are people assigned. Our current chair did actually assign folks to the intern committee that was passed out on the committee list at the beginning of the year. So I would like to see that one here and allow the new council members the opportunity to possibly call a meeting and see if we can get something. We're halfway through the year. We're approaching the end of our budget, and I think it will free up a lot more time for council members to begin some other initiatives, especially as we wrap up the strategic plan and start focusing on kind of next steps.
Thank you. Point taken. Mr. Malinowski.
And now that you mention that, Ms. Mackey, I was thinking the wrong thing for intern. You're talking about people to come in and do an internship here.
Yes.
I think Councilman Manning had a lot of
Yeah.
say with that.
Yeah.
Of course, he's been gone, what now? 3 years? Oh, was it 2 years?
It ain't 2 years, a year and a half. That's why I said we're
Yeah.
still new, Bill. We're going to have the meetings.
That's why I'm leaving. I'm getting old.
No, we know we act like we've been here as long as you.
Well, can we find out if it goes back there, how this did come about, what the intended purpose was? If somebody could please research it and bring it back to us.
That's fair. So I think that what I hear is that we want to keep this list of hearing committee just a little while longer. But please note for our next meeting that the discussion that we've had about the ones that we are comfortable with presenting the full council to remove. Please make sure we include that as we move forward. So our next order of business, we can skip right over items 5C because that was the Sewer Ad Hoc Committee. And we've already addressed that in that list. And
Sorry,
B,
Madam Chair.
Yeah.
Did you need to vote on this or anything?
No, we're just
Okay,
gonna keep it
all
in
right.
committee.
Okay.
We'll keep it in committee just so that we can get a little more backstory on the intern ad hoc committee. And then from there, we can make a decision. So the next order of business is the boards, commissions, and committees descriptions. There, and it looks like I will entertain any conversation that you all would like to have about this, but I think this is one of those documents that we've kind of been around the mountain a couple of times about, just with some language, switching out some words, formatting, all of that. I did not have anything resounding that came out of my review, but I will hear from the committee if there's something that.
Motion to approve?
I'll second it for discussion. Mr. Malinowski.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. That page 38, the first one, the library, this is going against everything we've been saying, the way it's listed there. Wait, were these the comments that I think they were, right? With it, on page 38, are those based on the comments I put in last time? Yes.
Yes.
And so on page 11, it has the same things, but in going back and looking at all of these particular boards, commissions, and committees, I didn't see any changes. So was I missing them, or didn't we reach out and try and get some input for potential changes?
These are the ones that you see on the screen right now were the changes that were, and you have it on page 38.
Right.
Yeah, those were the proposed change. Those were the changes. And the library did mention yesterday that they will agree to the 1 term instead of 2 consecutive terms. So they were not in agree. They were requesting not to add the language that has been added to all of the other committees, which stated members should not serve more than 2 consecutive years. However, upon service of 2 consecutive, so the continuation of that language, they requested not to have that added. Yesterday, they said that they will agree to 1 year.
1 year. Okay, that was my question on that one.
That's reflected in what we have before. That's not reflected.
No, because we just received
Correct.
that yesterday.
Okay.
And number 2, the Midlands Workforce Development Board. It doesn't say anything about term limits there, just that the executive director recruits individuals for this committee, and most members serve only 1 term. That's kind of a very vague way of putting it.
I think it's because they have their own bylaws, so they follow with that. But
They're pass through, right? That's why I'm not so sure why we're even involved. They've asked that years ago, but don't they have any rules about that? I mean, it's not listed. That's on page 49 of our agenda, that particular group. And I don't, I only brought it up because I didn't see it listed there either.
they are a federal mandated board, so they follow those guidelines.
I don't know, though, if those guidelines indicate anything relating to what I was asking. If they do, it needs to be put in here, I thought.
I'm concerned whether or not, how much oversight we can give to this body, just because it is a pass-through and because it is a federally mandated group. I think our sole function is to appoint, and we.
Well, then that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah.
We can let that one go. But the Riverbanks Zoo Commission, We were supposed to determine if the city of Columbia and Lexington, who also have input with that particular commission, have term limits for their appointees. And
That's
it
also
says,
reflected on page 38.
okay, that says, wait a minute, Columbia has a 2-term and Lexington a 3-term limit. So there's one that we need to decide what we would like to do, or because we don't have anything listed for our term limits, right?
But I would like to say that we would be consistent with what we are asking across the board, with all the other ones. And so where we change the language to say they can do two consecutive terms and then they have to sit off for 1 term. That's the language that we adopted, correct? So and that would be consistent with the city of Columbia with 2 terms.
And that's fine then, but let's get that language in there then. Internal Audit Committee's fine. It puts a 3-term limit for that particular committee. The new established by ordinance, and at that time, no term limits were established. But it says at that time. So has anything changed since that time that we need to be aware of regarding term limits?
Will be
I would go with what our practice is, and now our best practice is 2 years on, 1 year
1 year
off.
off. It's fine. TPAC, no term limits. We need to do the same thing there?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay. Wait a minute, we can't do that. Because it says here, Richland County appoints 7 members from unincorporated Richland County with staggered term dates, 3 3-year terms, 3 4-year terms, and 1 5-year term. So I think since the terms are there, we just need to say at the end of an individual's term, they're off for a year before eligible again.
I'll agree with that language. Ms. Mackey?
That's it.
So with that, we had a motion on the floor to receive the document as it is printed. There have been a couple of amendments. And so, Mr. Malinowski, would you like to request a friendly amendment or to?
Well, I would just request a friendly amendment that we do move this forward to council as long as those particular items we discussed, if we all agree on them, are put in there by the time it gets there, rather than keep it here.
And this is going the next council meeting? Is that?
21st, that's
The
2 weeks
21st.
from now.
Okay, so is that enough time?
Then, no, okay,
Okay. I'll accept your friendly amendment.
thank you.
Welcome.
So with that, we'll take a vote.
Yes,
Barron,
Yes.
Mackey,
Yes.
motion approved.
All right, glad to see this go. Our next item is Animal Care Advisory Committee. Backstory here, because there was nothing in the packet. You have something?
no, I don't have anything. I was just
Yeah.
going to say, I thought we left with the understanding when I was speaking about it, that because they haven't met for such a long period of time, but their rules stated they were supposed to meet at least annually, that we were going to have them approached and ask them to follow the rules as they're set in place and get them to give us some feedback on that.
Correct, but we didn't.
But we don't have anything.
But we didn't have anything in our packet. So was that not addressed from the clerk's office? Or,
You have to, may I?
oh, yes, thank you.
That's an appointed committee. So the council actually has to appoint people to that committee. So that was the conversation that was had, was whether or not you were going to deal with that part first, because there's no meeting to be had if there's no appointed persons for the committee. I,
Do we know, Ms. Carrillo? Okay, so here we are. So let's put another action to this. And the action is, let's find out, indeed, are there individuals currently seated on this committee? Let's find that out. And then if you'll provide us an update at our next meeting so that we can determine how we need to move, if it is something that we need to take the full council to dissolve, or if it's something that we need to take the full council to appoint, whatever the case may be. You have information for us now?
Yes, ma'am. So there are two people who were appointed to this committee, and it was Dr. Tracy Wells. The appointment date was on May 3rd, 2016. And then Nicole Holland, she was also appointed on May 3rd, 2016. And they report under Ms. Haynes, Sandra Haynes.
Okay, so
Yeah.
further instructions would be to go to the Haynes individual and get an update on their meeting. Because if it's two people, they've been appointed since 2016. I could do a commentary, but I won't. So yeah, we need, because I think that the whole premise of what we're doing right now is cleaning up some of these committees and these ad hoc groups. So if it's not needed, or let's get some substance to be presented back to the committee. Mr. Malinowski.
Hey, Madam Chair. And I also think, I'm looking at page 56 of our agenda where it talks about this committee, and it says no term limits have been established. I think we need to go with what we've been saying of 2 years on and then 1 year off if you want to come back. And we need to actually just let Ms. Haynes know it's time to advertise for 2 new members for that particular committee, and that beginning this next year in 2023, since it says the committee will meet once a year in March, Ms. Haynes needs to coordinate that committee to meet in March of 2023 once new members are appointed.
Well, I would like to say that, this is something that we need to include in our next advertisement, because that'll come up. I don't want us to wait until, the January advertisement, when we've got one coming up in October. So if we can do that, but we still need to communicate with Ms. Haynes to make sure that she understands the intention of this group, or maybe there's some information she needs to share with us. So, point, I think we've been around here. We good? All right. So with our next order of business is item 6, items for information, and that is our boards, commissions, committee advertisement. That's on page 64 there. So we just closed out an ad on last Friday, was it? Last Friday. And so we will start to look at those individuals shortly. And then we have another one, I said October, but it's actually July. So we have the next one that's coming up in July. If we could, can you, Ms. Carrillo, can you give us an update on applicants, number of applications we received from this last round?
So it was published in different places. We sent it to the news. We sent it through social media. It was also publicized on our website. It was part of our news, the weekly news clips, as well as the Women in Leadership had actually published it on their website as well, and they have sent us a few recommendations. So we received about 50 or so applicants. So we have had a very good feedback.
I'm glad to hear that. That beats the 2 that we received last time. So thank you. Anything to address on item 6A from the committee? Next item is applications on file. We see they're listed there on pages 65 through 68. Please make sure that we continue to update this, keep this list updated and circulated in our packet so that we can keep this before us. Mr. Malinowski, did you have
Yeah,
something
if
to
we
address?
could just somewhere in here note, because if somebody's looking at it from the outside, the highlighted ones mean whatever it is, however you want to shorten it.
I think we did talk about having a legend to go with this document because it would be helpful. We figured it out now. We figured it out, but you know, coming from the outside. And our last order of business is 7.
Motion to adjourn?
Ms. Carrillo, please.
Malinowski,
Yes.
Barron,
Yes,
Mackey.
Yes.
Motion approved.
meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone.